Good morning, everyone. Good morning. How's everybody doing? Happy Monday. It is week 5. Believe it or not, it's blowing my mind. Week 5 of these weekly meetings. It's just doesn't seem like it should be 5 weeks. Some days more, some days less. But good morning. We are super excited to have you with us. Thank you for joining us on a Monday morning. Hope everybody had a great weekend. We're going to get started as usual. We will be utilizing the chat feature. If you are on YouTube and you're at the live in the YouTube live session with us, then you'll be able to chat your questions in. We'll pull them in as well. If it's after the fact, then please feel free to go to the Auxiliary Connections feedback portal. You can find that at auxiliary.uj.edu. And under Auxiliary Connections tab, if you select Survey and Feedback, you can leave your feedback or question there. You can leave it anonymous. You can leave your name. Either way, whatever your preference is, just let us know what we're doing. If we're doing something that you really like, if you have ideas, something we could improve on, or if you just want to ask a question and it's after the fact. So please send that in as you feel the need to. This morning's session is with the one and only Randolph Carter. So no further ado, I will turn it over to him.
Good morning. Hang on, I got it. Can I share my screen? There I am. Good morning. I'm looking to see the numbers, and I have 116 of my coolest friends joining us this morning. Welcome. We're starting, like Catherine was saying, week 5. You know, I've protected you all, and he's been on vacation. But I have to tell you, I have a COVID-19 alter ego that I've got to introduce you all to. Now, Catherine is going to kill me about this because she and Tortilla Man don't have a great relationship, but Brett loves Tortilla Man. I think Robert and the rest, and I know Danielle and Shaquavia, they all love Tortilla Man. So all 123 of you, I'm going to officially introduce you to Tortilla Man. This is my alter COVID-19 ego behind the scenes that's helped me deal with this stuff. So ladies and gentlemen, this is Tortilla Man. It is very nice to meet all of you, okay? All right. So, Tortilla Man got some good mornings from folks who know him. So Sam and those folks have known Tortilla Man for weeks now, right? Good morning. Listen, the comments are killing me. They're saying I've been in the house way too long, but we have to be able to laugh ourselves. We have to laugh at ourselves. We have to be able to bring some levity to the situations that we're in. And Tortilla Man was born out of that, out of thinking, what is it that we need to do for our employees? How do we not just work and not have fun? And Tortilla Man was a lot of fun for the teams behind the scenes that helped develop this initiative. Today, I'm going to share my screen. We're going to talk about a topic that all of us should know about because all of us have experienced change in one way or another. See if this can go to where I want it. There we go. Catherine, can you let me know if we can see my screen? Just to make sure.
You're good.
All right, excellent. So my goal is to talk to you about change. Now, I've done a lot of research on change. And most of the time, I went in the library this time. I was working in training and development at the time. And I went in the library because I was interested in putting together a course about change. And I read several books in the library, and all of them talk about organizational change from the organization perspective. And I was getting really frustrated over time because I didn't want to talk about organizational change from the organizational perspective. That's important, very important. And a lot of it was talking about how do you manage people during change. And I didn't want to talk about that. I was really interested in how human beings deal with change, because organizations are made of human beings. And if I understood how human beings process change and how they reacted to it, then my understanding of how to engage, not how to manage, but how to engage with them around change becomes more effective. And I would say at about my fifth book, I came across this book in the library. It was called The Change Cycle, and it was written by a lady called Anne Salerno. And I started flipping through, and the more I flipped through, the deeper and deeper I got, because it was speaking directly to what I wanted, an opportunity to talk to people, and firstly for me to learn, but then to be able to relate to people how they process change and how that affects everything that they do. So don't worry about all of these circles. We're going to break them down in our time today, one by one. We don't have a lot of time to spend too much time in one area. So consider this an introduction to the change cycle. Once we get back to campus, we will spend some time dealing with some of these. I'm also really excited, just as an announcement, excited about our Auxiliary Learns initiative. And what that really is a time where, so this afternoon, so now that we've completed this phase of fireside chats, we wanted an opportunity for people to actually sit and engage and just talk and have facilitated conversations. So if you look on the schedule, the 2 p.m. sessions this week and moving forward, we're testing it this week to see how it works. Our hope is that it moves forward. But the 2 p.m. sessions are really about us learning together. So it's not somebody telling us something and we're listening, but it's taking like a 15-minute clip, a 10-minute clip, maximum a 30-minute clip, and we all watch it together. And at the end of that clip, we open up the lines just like we did on Friday and have each other talk about different things. For this particular presentation, we will open up the lines because I want to hear from you, but we won't spend too much time because the 6 stages are really, really important now. We want to just touch all of them. Don't worry about capturing everything. By the end of the presentation, we will have a PDF version of this in the resource page for you to take a look at. It briefly explains each of the stages. And then, as I mentioned earlier, once we get back to campus, we'll make sure that our learning and engagement continues, and the change cycle will be one of those things that I will work either with big groups of individuals, or I would come specifically to your unit to work with your unit about how we're managing change. So quick question, just I don't want you to answer this outright. You can answer it in the chat box, but I want you to think about it. Why do universities change? And why do organizations like auxiliary services in a university like the University of Georgia change? There's many, many reasons why. I'll give you a few. One is to stay competitive, right? Because there are other universities that are learning, that are growing, that are expanding. And if we were to just sit on our laurels and sit on our hands and say, oh, you know what? We're great in Georgia. We're the flagship of the state of Georgia. We don't need to do anything else. Universities will come and pass us and we'll be left in the dust. There are many, many organizations and corporations in the world, or that were in the world today, that didn't really adapt to the kinds of changes and the competition that they had until it was too late. And if you think about corporations from the 80s and 90s and even the 2000s that aren't around today, you have a sense of what I'm talking about. So the competition, the strive for excellence. So outside of competition, we want to provide the best service that we can to our clients and customers. And we talked about that a little bit on Friday. Legislation changes why universities have to change. So if the governor and the state legislature say, this is what we want for our higher ed institutions, UJ has to adapt and change. A good example of that would be our meal plan pricing, and whether or not we have the ability to charge more for our meal plan or keep them stable so that there's no cost of education increase for our students. Institutions also change in order to adapt to current situations. Now, each of us know exactly what I'm talking about, because right now we're doing a Zoom class with all of auxiliaries on the computer from the comfort of your home, or from a place that you're comfortable with, or you're listening on your phone, or you're one of those people who didn't have a chance to watch it while it was live, so you're probably lying in your bed watching it as well. We have to be able to adapt and change. Now, the organizations and the individuals that adapt to change better are the organizations and individuals that really take care of themselves, take care of their families, and take care of their organizations in a way that's very productive. So every single one of us are at some point on this change cycle. Let me explain the cycle for you a little bit. So the cycle is organized in reds, yellows, or you can call it orange, and greens. Think about the stoplight. So it's literally like the stoplight. So stage 1 and 2 are your red stages. And red really means caution, stop, These aren't the most productive phases. Now, I want you to see, I'm not technically making a value judgment on these phases in terms of if you hear, then you're in a really bad place. No, every single stage in the cycle is a natural reaction for a human being. So every single stage, and every time a change is introduced, that's why you see up here, this change wedges itself into the cycle. Every time a change is introduced, we go through these stages. Now, there's a difference in how long each of us will stay at a specific stage, but we cannot skip a stage. So the reds are those your really cautious stages. The yellows, kind of like you're driving and the light turns yellow, very few people that I know will put the foot on the brakes and stop. Some people will speed up a little. Some people will get confused and almost cause an accident. But the yellows are not your red light flashing, stop right now, but hey, be careful, pay attention. There's a change that's coming, and there's a transition really that's about to happen. Your greens are your goal. Your greens are, I know very few people, like my daughter, she's 16 and she's beginning to drive now, who will slow down at a green light. That's good. I'm happy that she's careful. But I know the people behind me don't like the fact that she's slowing down at a green light. But green is really that goal. And it's where you get to a place of understanding and integrating. And the title of this is Integrating the New Normal, integrating the change cycle and looking at how changes become the new normal. All right, so that's your reds, your yellows, and your greens. So let's dive into these stages. Kathleen, I'm going to keep, I can't see the chat. So if there are questions that are coming out as I move between slides, please stop me and ask those questions, because I want people to get a grasp. Again, we can't go too deep today, but I want folks to get a grasp of what we're talking about. Are there any questions so far?
No, do you want to know the responses? You said you asked the question about why universities change.
Yes. Yes, I would love to hear some
answers.
Yes, let's hear some.
Okay. Of course, Robert said because they need to think bigger.
Yes.
Big shock. We would expect no other response from you, Robert, for sure. Or Shaterika says to stay updated on the most trendy and quote eye-catching things to fit students of all nationalities and backgrounds, and basically to be the best. And Scott said to improve for the sake of improvement.
To improve. I don't know about the for the sake of, but to improve, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Let me move forward a little bit, because typically when I spend a lot of time in stages 1 and 2, and I don't want to do that because then I don't give stage 5 and 6 the details that they need. But again, these are your red stages. So let's break them down one at a time. So stage 1 is the stage of loss. Now, the way the change cycle works, it talks about 3 things. It talks about when you are going through a change, what are your feelings, what are your thoughts, and what are your behaviors? So I want us to step back and think about that for a second. What am I feeling? What are my thoughts? What are my behavior? My feeling, my thinking, my action. Feelings, thought, behavior. Now, the best way to go about doing that, I'll step back for a second. The best way to go about really processing the information I'm giving you is to put in the forefront of your mind a change. Now, I actually want you to put two changes in the forefront of your mind. What you realize is that you may be at different stages for each of the changes, but the first change I want you to put in the forefront of your mind is one that's universal to all of us right now, right? And it's the COVID-19 change in how we did business and how we went to work and how we went to the grocery store and whether or not I can go to TJ Maxx or whether I can go, fishing or swimming or watch the Bulldogs or any of those kinds of things. So I want you to put COVID-19 in the front of your mind as one of the big changes that have happened to you recently. And then I want you to grab a second change. You don't have to make that one primary. Most of my examples will be on COVID-19 since all of us are experiencing that change in the same time frame, not in the same way, but in the same time frame. But then I want you to grab a second change. It can be a personal change. So the loss of a family member or divorce or new job or something like that, something personal or something professional, right? You've gotten a new boss or you've got some new co-workers or you shifted your roles in a lateral way, something professional. So big change, COVID-19, that's our universal change. And then grab a personal or professional change. And as we go through the cycle, think about these stages through that. All right. So let's talk about stage one, the stage of loss. And remember, we said there's three things that the cycle always looks at. The cycle always looks at your feelings, your thoughts, and your behavior. So how do I feel? What am I thinking? And how am I acting? So stage one, the primary feeling during this time is fear. Now, every one of us with every change goes through a loss. And I'll have people ask me every time I present this, well, for me, I'm in the green. I always adapt real quickly and I get to the green. You may adapt real quickly, but you don't skip these other steps. For every change, it's almost like in economics, that's that opportunity cost, right? So for every change that happens, there is something that you've lost. So with COVID-19, we're in the middle of it and we have to be separated from each other. For some of us, oh, we love it. For some of us, no, we don't like it. But regardless of where we stand on the spectrum, there is something different. There's something that we don't have. I've been on just about all of the fireside chats. And one of the things that I've heard repeatedly is folks missing the interaction that they had with each other. That is a loss, right? I miss and I've lost that human connection that makes me human, that makes me want to reach out to people. I love walking by the bakery, or I love driving the bus and seeing the students, at Take when the plaza is full. Or, what, I really just miss our customers coming to the golf course and hitting balls and laughing and transacting business. Or, hey, you know what? I miss the questions, the funny questions that make us giggle and laugh in the one-stop shop when a student asks a question and after the student or guest leaves and we say, could you imagine to just ask that? And we laugh about it and say, yeah, well, I'm happy we could provide them that assistance. Or I was talking to the bus operators the other day and that question where somebody puts their hand up and they look at the sign on the front of the bus that says orbit, and then comes back and puts the 1 foot in the bus door and 1 foot on the ground that holds the bus up. So the bus can't move now because we don't want to hurt that person and say, is this orbit? And the bus driver's thinking, didn't you just look and it says ORBIT? Yes, it's orbit. And then we go back and we talk and we laugh. And so that human connection, that's a loss. Regardless of where you are on the spectrum, we all experience some sort of a loss in this stage. Now, the primary feeling, not all of us experience this to the same magnitude, but the primary feeling is a feeling of fear. The primary thought is, I've got to be really careful here. The primary behavior is paralysis. It's that fear of flight, right? And the key thing here to understand is that none of this is abnormal. Every single one of this, your thoughts, your feelings, and your actions are all reasonable reaction to a change. So, dominant emotion, fear. The major focus that you have at this stage is self-protection. How do I take care of myself? If you've ever lost a job before, that's one of the first questions that come to mind. How do I take care of myself? How do I protect myself? How do I mitigate the impact of this change on me? If you've lost a family member, if you've been in a divorce, I mean, if you've had any personal or professional or even the COVID-19 change, the primary thing that you ask yourself is, how do I protect myself? Now, I will tell you, I go to the store because I'm like every single one of you. My fuel is people. I love people. I love talking to people. I love hearing their stories. I love people. Can't quite do that at the grocery stores now. I've had to change because now when I go to the grocery store, in fact, I've decided the grocery stores are getting a little too crowded now, so I don't even go as often as I used to before. But when I go, I have a whole regimen, and I have my gloves, I have my alcohol, I have my hand sanitizer, I have the whole 9 yards. So before I get out of my car, I do my ritual, I get ready, I go in, I come back. Before I sit in my car, I go ahead and do my ritual again, make sure I'm rubbing alcohol all over myself and over just about everything of mine. And if you think about that and you ask yourself, why are you doing all of that? Self-protection. Simple as that. To protect myself, to protect my family, and for me to tell myself that I'm being safe. So in this stage, your primary objective is to move from fearfulness to creating a sense of safety and security. Why? Because the extreme side of fear becomes paranoia, right? When you get paranoid, everything matters. You don't trust people, you don't trust anyone, you don't trust anything. Loss, this first stage of change, has the ability to get you to a sense of paranoia if it's not taken care of, if it's not paid attention to. One of the challenges in this stage will be that victim mentality that people have. So now it's, oh, poor me, and this is just bad. This is the worst thing that can ever happen to any human being. And we start to pile these things on us. And the more we pile on us, the more we limit our sense of security, the more we limit our thoughts of self-protection and possibilities. And the more we take our fear, which is a natural and normal response, into paranoia. So the quote down there says, things might be out of your control, but you are in control of you. So here's where I'm going to start with the take action side. So list what remains the same coming out of that change. Again, it's not ignoring what you've lost, but really taking stock of what's remained the same. And then identify what's real and what's imaginary. I'll tell you a quick story. And this happened during the FLSA time, when we had to shift people's time. This was about 4 or 5 years ago. The government had done new legislation on who could be considered exempt versus non-exempt. And the university had to respond. It was a very, very tough time. And I was working with a lady who, at the time, we had to shift some things during the Christmas holiday. University had put things through an algorithm, and the best and the least impactful time to people's paychecks would have been the first week of December, that some actions had to be taken. And folks were in this place of loss. They were very fearful. I talked to this lady who was very, very fearful. And so the question that I ask her, and it's the question that the model asks you for this stage, is, what's that loss? And can you live with it? So I asked the lady that question, and she identified the loss was that she wouldn't have been able to buy her grandkids as many presents as she could have in previous years, because there was going to be something done to her paycheck. So she wasn't going to be bringing home what she had typically brought home that time of the year. That was a genuine fear. There's nothing wrong with her thinking about that. That was a genuine fear. The second question was, can you live with that? Can you live with the fact that you're not able to buy your grandkids as many toys for Christmas as you did before? And for most of us, if we were to be true to ourselves, the answer is yes. So think about your loss, think about your COVID-19 or your personal and professional loss or professional loss, and ask yourself, what's the worst that can happen? And can I live with it? And human beings inside of us, we have the ability to be resilient. And if you choose the side of resilience versus the side of victimhood, the answer to can I live with it will be absolutely yes, I can live with it. And that's how you start defining the change. That's how you start creating a sense of safety. And that's how you start asking yourself, how do I get help and find the resources that I need? On the left side of your screen, those are behaviors that we try to migrate you away from. So isolating, withdrawing, generalizing everything as bad, feeling completely out of control, not just of the situation, but yourself, and also not trusting people, not trusting processes, not trusting anything, and then beginning to also ask yourself, why me? I can't do anything now. I'm stuck. And if you think about it, after the first couple of days when we knew that, okay, we had those campers and people went home, there was that feeling of paralysis. I don't know what to do. If you talk to people who's a family member, one of the first things that happen to them is that paralysis. They're kind of stuck in the same place. If you've ever been a part of the grief share process, sometimes you hear people who've been stuck and paralyzed in the same place for years, sometimes 5 years after the change event happened. And so what we're trying to move you from that first stage of fear and paralysis to the second stage. Now, again, some of us, we stay in stage one all our time and we never move. Some of us, we deal with stage one very fast and we move. There is no value added that I'm giving you and say, this is better than this. I'm asking you to be aware of the stage that you're in and work towards progressing beyond that stage. All right, stage two, and I have to speed things up a little bit. I always spend so much time on the first two stages because that's where people really understand the model. Stage two, now we're in a stage of doubt. I'm no longer at a loss because I've already acknowledged that, you know what, these are the things that I've lost, but these are also the things that I still have, right? And so we're moving from loss to doubt. Catherine, I'm going to pause here for a second because I want to either open the line up or read some of the comments that I can respond to regarding phase one.
Okay, we haven't had any questions.
And folks can raise their hand like we did on Friday if they wanted the cameras turned on and to physically ask a question.
Okay. No takers yet.
All right. All right, I'll move on. Again, I want you to think about your changes. I'm not straying away from thinking about this organizationally. When we come back, things are going to be different, right? If a large number of our employees are student workers, right? When we come back to campus, whether they're students on campus or not, we'll have to do things differently. When we come back to campus in the fall and students are potentially able to come back to classes, we may not get the same numbers and levels of student workers as we had before. So there will be a loss. There will be a change that wedges itself into our typical and normal cycle. And beginning to ask yourself, what's the worst that can happen and can I deal with it? Or ways that will help you such that by the time we get back to campus and things are moving and grooving and we get to week 6 of being back on campus, that Katrina's phone and my phone and Robert's phone and Brett's phone aren't blowing up because people haven't had an opportunity to really process the changes that are crucial and that need to happen. So that's phase one. Phase two, we move on to doubt. Now, this is where it gets interesting. The fear that you felt in phase one changed to resentment. And this is where people start getting angry at folks, right? And if you think about this and think about the change cycle, you get angry. You start thinking, not just why me, and these people are against me, but I need to do something more than just protect myself. I need to respond. I need to react. I need to make sure they never do this again. So your feelings become more that of resentment, both for the processes and the people who has instilled those processes. Your thoughts become skeptical. So again, you went from not really trusting anybody to, it's not that I don't fully trust them. I take everything that they say with a grain of salt, and your behavior becomes resistant. And by resistant behavior, it's not that you're refusing to do something, but it's taking you a lot longer time to do it than you typically would. Why? Because you still haven't bought into this change. You haven't analyzed it in a way to say, okay, I do have a loss, but I still have these other things that remain the same. And that third piece is, what are those other things that I've added? A good example, going back to our COVID-19 change, yeah, we've lost the personal connections for more than 6 weeks, right? But, and yes, there are things that remain the same. We still have our jobs, we still have our relationships. They don't have to be in person at this time, but we can still develop those relationships. We still get an opportunity to pause for a second and check on our garden, or cut that hedge that's been growing wild, or connect with somebody who we haven't had an opportunity to connect with. But then you add that third piece, is we have an opportunity to learn and expand and grow ourselves and make ourselves better. So not only did you have a loss, but there's stability and there's also gain. What happens with this second stage is you've moved past that loss a little bit and you're being a little resistant. This is not helpful, because in most cases, it puts you in the way of the progresses that need to happen. And so making sure that your resistance is just not this perpetual thing, and you're not just stuck at this stage of doubt forever. Dominant emotion again, anger. Major focus becomes your ego. I was the one who did this stuff. I was the one who brought all these things. This place wouldn't be what it is because of me. And now look how they're treating me. We start focusing more on ourselves, not from a self-protection specifically, but also from poking other folks in the eye, if I could call it that. We're motivated by opinions and facts. We blame ourselves sometimes, or we blame others. And the opportunity here is to get from doubt to reality. So most of us want to know, when do we open again? And what is it going to look like? And I know things aren't going to be this, and they're not going to be that, and they're not going to be that, and they're not going to be that. But hang on a second. You don't quite know that. I was watching a news conference the other day, and the reporter was asking this governor all these questions about what he should know. And the governor said, "You're a smart guy. Why don't you answer some of those?" And he's like, no, I'm not the governor. He's like, yeah, but you're a smart guy. I'm the governor, but I have no idea how these things are going to look. So a lot of times you're calling your managers, or you're calling the leadership and say, so when is this going to happen? When is that going to happen? How are we going to do that? How are we not going to be able to do that? Take a step back and ask yourself, how do I move from doubt to reality? Reality is that this situation is so shifty that even our leadership, and I'm not talking about Robert and Brett, I'm talking as high up as you can go, are dealing with those shifts as they become available, as they make themselves visible. So the answers may not be there, but there are answers there today that can get you from doubt to the reality that you face. If you are a leader, and I always keep a little section for our managers and leaders. If you are a manager and a leader, understand that these questions that people are having, they're not bad questions. It's just their way of stabilizing in their mind this wedge that this change has created. So make sure that you're not just providing words, but that you communicate into them in a way that they understand the answers that you can provide for them at the given space. And you all can project, but understand that whatever information you give them about the future is always going to be fluid. In one of the other sessions we did in previous weeks, we talk about your different kinds of questioners. So a how, or when, or why. Understand the teams that you have and the individuals on those teams that are who people, what people, why people, when people, and provide them credible information in a way that makes sense to them. Any questions or comments, Catherine?
Yes, so what would be the best way to manage someone with a strong personality who makes stage 1 or stage 2 infectious?
So the question is, what would be the way to manage a strong personality that makes stage 1 or stage 2 infectious? I would say there's
Infect
two ways. Go ahead.
No, I was just saying, yeah, I was just clarifying that is an infectious, that they pass that along, that feeling along, and grow it in other people.
I would say the first thing is to talk directly to that person. I wouldn't make an assumption as to the stage that they're in. I would try to understand where they are. If they're at a loss, then you have an ability to say, listen, what you're expressing right now is the feeling of a loss of something that we used to do before. Here's what we have, here's what remained from the past, and here's where we're going. Now, I will tell you, most of the people who stay in phase 1 and are infectious, so people who spread their thoughts and their feelings and their behavior to the rest of the team, are people who feel like they're losing what made them who they are with an organization. And so if somebody's been doing a process for 10 years, and you come and you say, hey, we're starting a new process, we're not doing that process anymore, they actually have a very big loss. And because now in their eyes, they're no longer as valuable as they were before. So work directly with that person to identify what is the primary loss that they're trying to shelter against, right? And then ask them, how can we deal with that? Here's what we have that remains. Here's where we are going in the future. And here are the supporting systems that I can put to get you from understanding that, yes, we're not doing what you were so good at before, but guess what? We're creating opportunities for you to be even better at what remains and even great at those things that you haven't had an opportunity to do. That's step 1. Step 2 then would be to do a temperature check with the rest of your team in a way to guard their minds, because where I am in a stage and where in the circle and where somebody else is in the circle can be different things because they come from very, very, very value circles. So make sure that, yeah, while this person is trying to infect the team, you check in with other key team members to ensure that where they are in the phases is where they want to be versus where they're being pushed by somebody else. I'm reading a book right now, and it's called the 80-20 Principle. And it's a really fascinating book because it's the writer says it's counterintuitive. It says that, it takes 20% of really key hard work to reap 80% of the benefit. Most of us think I put 50% in, I get 50% out. What you're explaining, Captain, or whoever asked that question, the question they're asking is that 20%. That 20% of employees that can either tank a change cycle, or the 20% of employees that can try to make sure that people understand where they are and how they can move from the greens to the yellows and from the reds to the yellows and eventually to the greens. So start with the individual, identify where they are, identify whether their loss and doubt are imaginary or real, and then identify who are those people who they're beginning to influence, and get those people to be able to know where they are in the circles of change, and provide both of these groups information that can move them through the circle.
All right.
Any other questions?
I'm gonna just, in the interest of time, because you only have 20 minutes and you're in stage 2, so I'm gonna just read this comment.
I anticipated this.
Michael said, I think a challenge we face is that we lack full knowledge of what we will lose during these events. We're unable to project our lives into the far future because we don't know what systems and changes and losses will occur.
Yes. So that's correct, Michael. And so if you look on your screen towards the right of your screen, the column there that says take action now, that's exactly what people need to do to get out of the reds. What information do I not have? And who can I go to for that information, right? What's my current reality? And it's interesting, for the last 5 weeks, we've been doing a lot about defining what the current reality of auxiliary services are. If you've been a part of a fireside chat, that's been described to you numerous times. If you've been a part of some of these courses, we've been gradually in undertones defining what our current reality is and what our future will look like. Are we going to go back to normal in that normal terms? Yes, we can make this change a new normal, but the past is the past, and there's some shifting and flexibility that would need to happen. We need to manage passive and aggressive anger. People are already angry. They're going to find ways to either passively show you that they're angry or be outright aggressive about their anger, and get specific, timely, and valid info. A lot of what we're doing now is providing info that are timely. So this is what we know now. And whenever new information comes available, we waste no time in allowing the processes to happen where we get those new information to you. So determine what information is missing, define your current reality, manage the anger that you feel inside as either passive or aggressive, and get specific and timely and valid info. And that's where our bubble organization comes in. You can reach out to anybody in the organization to get information, but make sure that the information you're getting is credible. All right, I'm going to move forward. So now we've moved from the reds, we're getting into the yellows, meaning that you're beginning to see this change in a different way. You're not as resistant as you were before. You're not as resentful as you were before. You're not as paralyzed as you were. Now you're moving into a place where you can say, maybe I can think about this in a different way. So the first phase in the yellows is that phase of discomfort. I still have anxiety. I still am not sure about this stuff. I'm a little confused. Oh my God, we're not going to have as many students as we had before. What does that mean for my station? What does that mean for my ridership and my route? And what does that mean? What does that mean for the customers when we come home? When we come back, we have to wear these masks all the time. What does that mean? So it's where you're beginning, your thoughts become more confused. And I'll tell you, a mind that is bundled and jumbled up is a mind that becomes unproductive. You ever sit down and try to do something, and then 15 minutes later, you realize I haven't done a single thing yet because in my mind, I can't focus anymore. That's this third stage of discomfort, where now, no longer fearful, no longer doubting, so no longer skeptical. You're trying to move to the acceptance and the integration of this change, but now there's a little bit of anxiety. What's in it for me? What does this mean for me? What are my next steps? Should I do this, that, and the other, or the other, that, and this, or this, and the other, and that? And it becomes all confusing, and you're paralyzed. Well, you've moved from paralysis to now you've become unproductive. Paralysis is where I don't know what to do. I'm stuck. Resentment is where I don't want to do that. Unproductive is I want to do that, but I want to do this, I want to do that, I want to do that, and I haven't done any of those. I'm not resistant to it, but I just can't make a move. Your dominating emotions become frustration. I am frustrated. Why? Because I am not in control of what's going on around me. So I can't. I was talking to a manager the other day, and we were talking about opening plans. And the manager kind of relayed that they were frustrated without actually saying it because there was just too many variables to consider as we think about opening. And I thought, okay, we're in a stage of discomfort here. This manager these changes, but right now they can't think about how to do that. And it's frustrating because there's too many unknowns. A good objective for this stage is to go back to your self-motivation. I will tell you, COVID-19 is something that most of us have never, well, just about all of us have never dealt with before. But I can tell you there's been things that we've dealt with as human beings that have some of the same patterns and same attributes that we can bring to the COVID-19 situation and deal with these. I think about myself. A lot of you know this, but for some of you who are new to the team, and actually for the transportation and parking folks, because I had an opportunity many years ago when I went to the dining folks and I told them my story. I have been a part of a war. And I'm not talking about a stay in your house and social distance type war. I'm talking about a civil war with guns blazing and rockets flying and you looking for food when no places are open. I have been a part of I have seen some of the most devastating things. I have seen 7-year-old kids become child soldiers and murder families and burn villages and schools. So I've seen a lot of those. And what's interesting for me is that as I deal with COVID-19, I think about hey, this is not as worse as it was when I was 11 and had to find food for my 7-year-old brother and 5-year-old sister. This is not as bad. I was able to overcome that. And with that inner strength and inner power, I can overcome those things that are making me uncomfortable now, that are making me fearful now. I can be able to get some of that inner and self motivation and move forward. One way to do that is to not make yourself overwhelmed. Well, take little small breakthrough steps. So if you think about how everything's going to be when we come back, that's too much. Your brain can process all of that. It's not healthy for your brain to process all of that. But process things little by little, one step at a time, and that moves you from discomfort, from doubt to discomfort. I'm trying to be cognizant of our time here. So I'm going to go straight to the take actions piece. First thing, make a list. Right? I'm not a list person, but sometimes when I'm getting overwhelmed, you will see I'll take a little sticky note and make a list. And just by crossing 2 or 3 things out of that list, I feel like I've accomplished enough that gives me the fuel and the momentum to go and do something else. So prioritize and focus. When we get back to campus and we start our operations, our priority will be, yes, to provide excellent customer service. But one of the greatest priority I know from the HR group is for you to be able to integrate this into the new normal way of operation. So whatever that new normal, our focus, the team that I'm on, the focus would be to make sure that our employees understand the changes that are happening and they're coping and adapting to those changes in the best way possible. Ask for help. Bubble organization. Help doesn't always have to come from the Robert level. It can come from the person at the station next to you, from the mechanic that's in the motor pool with you, from the bus drivers that's taking over the shift that you just completed, from the customer service person at the one-stop shop, or the grounds, the greens crew at the golf course. Asking for help and getting more information at all levels of our organization is one of the actions I would encourage you to take. All right. Questions on this phase before I move?
None yet.
All right. So Winston Churchill says, if you're going through hell, keep going, right? Not staying and standing, just staying still, keep going. Now, I have 12 minutes, and it always happens because the first 3 stages are those stages that always wake people up and say, wait a second, I understand what he's talking about here because I've experienced these things, but I didn't know that that's what they were. I didn't know that my fear was because I had lost something from this change. I didn't know that my resistance was because I was in a stage of doubt about what is this going to mean. I didn't know that my discomfort comes from the fact that I'm a little anxious. I'm a little confused as to what my next step is. I can't get anything accomplished and done because there's just too much going on for me. Now, here's what I will tell you. If I leave you with nothing else, dealing with this stage of discomfort is particularly important because if you don't deal with it properly, you enter the danger zone. And what the danger zone is, the danger allows you, if you see the arrow, it takes you right back to that. COVID-19 is another great example of that. We've had some people in our country, this great United States, who have not been able to deal with the fact that things can't be the same as they were before things started. We have those people, and they've decided to exemplify those in ways that works best for them. Again, it's not moving. I'm purporting that those people aren't moving in the circle from discomfort and trying to get to the greens. They're trying to bring back what once were. But once that change has wedged itself, we can't remain the same. I know I've been on a lot of conversations with our senior leadership where they're beginning to think, okay, what does work schedules look like for some people who can telecommute? What is our engagement? How do we continue to keep the family, the auxiliary family, as close as we've been, although we're so separate and apart? So we know that things can't go back to the way they were, and that's okay. We can figure out a way that things become the new normal. But people who jump back into the danger zone and get back to where they started in their phase of loss, people who either haven't processed each of these stages at the time, within the time frame of the magnitude that they should, or did not do enough of the work that they needed to do, the personal work to move forward. All right, I'm going to move forward a little quickly. Next phase is that discovery phase. Now, we're still in yellow, but there's something about us getting back to campus that makes every single one of us a little bit excited. You know what? I never had an opportunity to stand and have a conversation with Miss Mary in the breaker. Now I do. I talk to Miss Mary a lot. I visit her. But you know what? I'm going to stop there and talk to her and ask her, how has it been to work here for 30-something years? What are the differences and the changes that you've seen? You know, what's exciting about those things? So there's a feeling of anticipation. Listen, I'm looking forward to beating Brett and all the other, Tamala and all the other folks at basketball. Now I have to tell you, I am the worst at basketball. My wife beats me every time we play a basketball game. And the last time we played was probably 2000, because she beat me so bad that I told her I would never play basketball with her again. 2000, that's 20 years ago. So I am looking forward to the auxiliary jazz band, right, with Brian and others who play an instrument. I'm looking forward to the Share the Vision, where we bring our families out and jump on bouncy castles and expand our family. I am looking forward to all these things that are going to become just not the new normal, but the new auxiliary family. I'm looking forward to those things. I'm looking forward to going and working the events and learning how to cater with Jessica and her team, or to work with the golf course people and pick up the balls. You know, I'm really looking forward to riding that golf cart thing that's in the cage where people are hitting the balls and it's hitting you and you picking the balls up. I mean, I am looking forward to chatting with the folks in transportation and parking about the usership or ridership of the new electric buses. By the way, there was an article in the news on UGA News today about that. So again, there's this sense of anticipation. And once you get to that sense of anticipation, your thoughts become resourceful. Wait a second. What can I do to make sure that, hey, I'm able to serve with Jessica and her team, or I'm able to provide a service to the golf team because I really haven't interacted with them. Hey, what can I do to make sure that I'm supporting the person who's standing next to me at the omelet station? What can I do to make sure that my smoothies are becoming so much better, or that, you know, I'm giving the biggest smile of welcome to people as they go through that parking deck, simply because I've missed them and I've been looking forward to serving them and working with them. The discovery phase is a phase that behavior becomes energized, right? You anticipate good things, you become resourceful to make those good things happen, and you energize about what the possibilities are. So I'm going to skip here and just talk about taking action here. 1 second.
Okay, while you're skipping, I'm going to go ahead and tell you the comment that has come in that that Brett said, you just need to do a second session to give the other stages their due time.
I agree. It never fails.
So this we can call this part 1, and then have we'll pick up with part 2. Okay. Danielle offered to give up her session tomorrow to have part 2 continue tomorrow morning at 10.
All right, we may do that.
You're
so
good, but I don't see you finishing the other session, other parts in 6 minutes and giving them their due time.
All right, I may talk offline with Danielle, and if she's offering that, I may take that offer. So I'm not going to touch the other 2. All right, I'm not going to touch the other 2. I just want us to stop here, and we'll start right here again tomorrow, if it's okay with Danielle and the rest of the group, because I feel like this is where, when we hit campus, this is where, now I'm not saying when we hit campus, we'll start here. I shouldn't say that because that won't be accurate. When we hit campus, some of us will be at stage 1, where there's a loss, right? When I get back to campus in the fall and I can't get a hug from Miss Sandra, I have a loss. I really do. Our students are coming back to campus with a loss. And again, it's not just recognizing the stages that you're in, It's also recognizing how you in your work can be supportive of the different stages that folks are in this change cycle. So again, just touching this real quickly, in terms of taking action here, brainstorming ideas and possible solutions. We've tried to start that process with the fireside chats, asking you, so what's next, right? Trust me, I've had my own fireside chat with the leadership. I've presented what I see is next. You know, we start thinking, okay, how can we use good decision-making strategies? We start looking at, okay, what's the time frame and the information that gets embedded into the time frame? And then we start thinking, so what's my immediate next step? And I want to leave you with that question. As you think about COVID-19, our big change that we all have faced together, or as you think about your personal or professional change, that one that just, you know what I'm talking about. If you at that stage of discovery, the question is, what's my next step? What's that one next step that I'm going to do that's going to lead to the next one and the next one and the next one? All right. So again, phase one, we started with doubt. Come on. Now it doesn't want to go back. Am I frozen, Catherine?
If you are, it's on you.
Okay. Again, I'm just going to pull this up here. Can we all see the big change cycle?
Yes.
All right. So just a quick recap. 3 minutes. I'm going to just 30-second recap, and then we'll open up the lines for thoughts or comments. Phase one, loss, right? And the feelings are, thoughts are cautious, behavior is paralyzed. Phase two, feelings are resentment, thoughts are skeptical. I don't quite know about this behavior. I ain't gonna do it. I tell you this story of, we have a colleague who I had to meet with because this person is a cook and they decided they ain't gonna cook. And it blew Katrina in my mind that this person was adamant that they're not gonna cook, although they're a cook. And they said, well, I just don't want to cook. And we were thinking, okay, so why do you apply to be a cook? And that person was being resistant because of a change that had happened, and they hadn't really identified what that change is. We're still working with this particular individual. But again, we're trying to get them to understand that the changes that are in place are actually better for you and the skill sets that you can build. Third stage, discomfort. I'm not fearful anymore. I'm not resentful anymore. I'm a little anxious right now. I'm confused. There's just too many things bobbling in my little head, and so I'm productive. Not dealing with those three, the potential of getting back into the danger zone and starting all over, but also recognizing, if I were to split and stay right down the middle here, recognizing that right now as we speak, and when we get back to campus, we will have either ourselves or colleagues who are going through this change, and they may be at one of these phases on this side of the cycle. And how can I support them? How can I put my own seatbelt on first, right? And how can I then support the stages that folks are from others? So I'm going to stop talking. We can open and take some comments before we go.
We did have everybody is in a unanimous agreement that we definitely need part two. So that's part two. Or we'll definitely make part two happen. And I've, because you're not going to be able to get this in 1 minute, 60 seconds, 45, doesn't matter. I promised Tamala that we will start part two with her question, which is, how often do people slip back into the other stages for the same change event? She's thinking of the stages of grief and how people tend to go back and forth. So we will start part two with that question of a note to make sure that's where we start. But
can I say something real quickly? I'm not going to answer that question yet. We'll answer it tomorrow, but I will have to tell you that for all of us, I want you to understand that our life isn't one big change cycle, right? So there's a number of different change cycles that we have going on. And you can have 5, 6 cycles at very different stages at different times. So COVID-19 is one big change cycle for us, but inside of each of us, there's several others that may be going on at the same time.
Okay, Miss Sandra also, she's watching on YouTube live and she said that's what she misses too is the people and giving us hugs. So
That's the loss.
Yep.
All right, y'all. Since we're gonna start where we stopped today, it's 11 o'clock. I want to say thank you. I've really missed all of us, and I feel even closer to our auxiliary family. So it's been a pleasure. And as I said earlier, every time we look at the numbers of participants, every single one of you, our auxiliary family that is on, it tells us that we're connected and we're really excited about you being a part of our team.
Thank you, everybody. We'll make sure that that we post when part 2 for sure will be maybe tomorrow, probably tomorrow, but we'll see. Check back on the website for sure.
And then we'll also post on the resource page right after this a summary of each of the stages and a copy of the cycle. So if you wanted to grab it and have it on your computer as we talk, you can do that.
All right, this afternoon, please join us at 2 o'clock. We'll be dissecting the Who Moved My Cheese book by Spencer Johnson. We'll be watching a video about that, and then we'll be having a kind of an open conversation, a back and forth this afternoon about that book. So it'll be like book club, a fast cycle book club. It'll be great. So we look forward to everybody this afternoon, and hope you have a great rest of your day. Yeah, we got to get
Take care, y'all.
They do not want to eat a tortilla. Okay, bye everybody. Have a great rest of your Monday.